If you hear the whisper in the back, it's because it's a little bit Russian translation.
Okay, no problem. We have another one, also nice. The whole presentation on Srila Prabhupada's mood. Maybe next time. Next time about Srila Prabhupada's mood. In the 60s, there was so much political agitation amongst the youngsters of America. I believe you heard about this, no? In the 60s. What was one of these agitations, which political agitation?
Vietnam War.
The Vietnam War. One thing. Anything else you remember what happened at that time?
Only one chapter in this course.
Is also translated?
Yeah.
Also translation.
Wasn't it also like a revolution against the whole conformity of the society?
Yes. So many dropouts. The young people, they didn't like anymore to do what their parents did. They just wanted to go in a different direction, looking for higher purposes, higher meaning of life and existence. There's a whole counter-culture developing at that time. Dreaming of walking from the nightmares of the Vietnam War, America's counterculture spread to different parts of the country, seeking peace. The sign actually means Vishnu. They tried the peace, love and happiness. Slowly the youth through various countries of the world followed the call of the counterculture. I remember in Germany also, naturally, at one point it drifted over to UK, England, I remember, and it came over to Germany. First, whatever happened in England, then that came over to Germany, starting at the harbor, Hamburg. It's a northern town. Everything started from there, this town Hamburg. Then it spread all over Germany.
Where you were from?
Huh?
Where you are from?
I'm from Hamburg, of course. I didn't waste my time in any other towns, cities in Germany. This is where everything happened. The music came over, the Beatles, the Stones at that time. The music came over, everything first to Germany. And then later on to Bavaria, other parts of Germany. Young people became enchanted by the free lifestyle of the hippie movement and lyrics and songs of Bob Dylan, John Baez, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix and many others. This massive uproar in society paved the way to not only seek relief from war and violence, but rather to seek for the very purpose and higher values of life. At that time, by the Lord's indescribable mercy on the human race, Srila Prabhupada decided to leave Vrindavan in order to deliver the message of Godhead to those who were desperately looking for it. And we did, I remember. It was just not a political, agitated movement, counterculture. It was actually more. We were factually beginning to raise fundamental questions. I remember we had night-long discussions, of course with a little help. little help, otherwise it's difficult to stay up the whole night. Anyway, we had discussions on precisely those issues. What is actually happening after that? Well, one of the hippies proposed I think then everything is finished. It's like switching off the lights. Another one put, no, I cannot imagine that. I cannot imagine that we only live for a few years, 80, 90 years, and then we cease to exist forever. No, I cannot believe this. There's something in me telling me that existence goes on even after death. So in this way we had debates and discussions whole night long. And when we became philosophically a little bit exhausted, intellectually a little bit exhausted, then we continued playing our flute, congas, bongos, harp, the harp, harmonica, and the guitar, of course. And then when we became a little bit exhausted with playing music, because we were not really musicians. Most of us were not musicians. Everybody had a guitar. Everybody possessed a guitar, but we were not really musicians. So we did these, what they call jam sessions. Everybody just plays anything, as long as possible. Hardly any lyrics, any text, just somehow play. And when we got tired of that, we continued discussing philosophy. But initially it was not easy for Srila Prabhupada. When he left Vrindavan, came to Boston Harbor, and then later on to New York, then San Francisco, Los Angeles. It was not easy for Srila Prabhupada. He had to deal with revolutionaries, challenging and drug-addicted youngsters who were not easily accepting anything unless it was genuine. They didn't buy anything easy. They were very challenging, they were skeptic, revolutionary spirit. And Srila Prabhupada had to deal with such, audience. He had this audience. And you can surely imagine what kind of questions they sometimes asked. I remember one boy, he asked Srila Prabhupada, when I chant this mantra, I see so many different colors and lights and things are flashing in my brain. And Prabhupada replied, don't worry, it will go away. He of course expected a different answer. At one occasion, a hippie with a long beard and a black coat with large silver stars, he all of a sudden stood up from the crowds and he challenged Srila Prabhupada. Can you see God? Srila Prabhupada replied, yes, but you are in the way. Because Prabhupada was looking at the deities and he was blocking the Prabhupada's view to see the deities. And I was like, yes, but you're in the way. Another time a long-haired student shouts a challenge from the back of the audience. If the purpose of life is to know Krishna, then why is illusion so strong? The Prabhupada replied, because your purpose is not strong. In English, purpose means also motivation. If your motivation is so weak, this is why illusion is so strong. Srila Prabhupada's rhetorical aikido was so sudden, swift and final that the discourse ended at that point usually. There were no more questions. They charged at Srila Prabhupada and he used this aikido type of answers. They were just disarmed immediately, no more questions. Prabhupada was so empowered, so expert. Srila Prabhupada was empowered like nobody else to spread the message of Godhead to the world in such a way that people could understand, accept it, and are starting to practice it in their own lives. The entire world is eternally indebted for that mercy and compassion Srila Prabhupada has given and shown to the world. See, this was so unique in Srila Prabhupada that he was not interested in impressing the audience with the topics or things he said nobody could understand. And everybody thinks, oh, it's so deep, so mystic, so wow, I don't understand one word. I'm really a beginner. Prabhupada had no interest in that. Posing himself as something so elevated nobody can even reach, what to speak of practicing it. But he actually wanted people to understand what he was saying, the message of Godhead. This is why he usually talked rather simple, but of course also deep at the same time, since he talked about Krishna, anything related to Krishna, naturally, what is more deep, more mystical than that. But he used a language that people actually could understand. He avoided using complicated Sanskrit phrases. Of course, sometimes he quoted verses, but generally he did not use terms people didn't understand. Like bhakti, he always did devotional service. Everybody could understand. Bhakti, many people don't know that term. He is the Acharya, he was teaching by example. He never asked his students to do anything that he wasn't doing. He ate, he slept, he chanted his rounds, rose early in the morning, he read, studied Srimad Bhagavatam. He never acted superior to his disciples. Sometimes he would say, "It is my duty to chastise because you are my disciple." We are his children, and his responsibility is to teach us and correct us if necessary. We know that Srila Prabhupada has been sent to us from the spiritual world by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But one reason, this is one, I give you about 6 memories of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. So one of these memories was that I was so attached to Srila Prabhupada because he allowed me to be comfortable with him. He acted in such a way as if he was practicing Krishna consciousness like anybody else of us. Srila Prabhupada had that personality, that nature. Anybody at any time could just approach him, talk to him, ask his questions. Srila Prabhupada never behaved in a far superior way so that the people around him, his followers and disciples, would feel too uncomfortable to even associate with him. Now this is another memory. This morning we were walking in the park downtown Auckland. Where is Auckland? Is it Australia maybe?
New Zealand?
New Zealand. Auckland.
Auckland.
New Zealand. Auckland. New Zealand. We were passing a small zoo with a large sign in front of it that said Children's Fairyland. So Prabhupada said, Children's Fairyland? And then he pointed to the skyscraper and said, Adults Fairyland. One day, another memory, one day in his room in LA, a psychiatrist was criticizing the devotees because they forced the public to accept their services. Srila Prabhupada quickly pointed out that this made us better than him. He said that we give our services to all for free by going to them, and he makes the people come to see him and then charges them. The psychiatrist suddenly fell silent. Another memory, this evening in the garden, Srila Prabhupada sat with his back very straight and with his eyes opened wide, and he chanted, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajan. This is our pride, he said. We are servants to the most majestic person, Krishna. Everyone is servant, but our pride is that we are the servants of Krishna. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajan. Then one brahmachari remembers Srila Prabhupada, he talks to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, it says in one of the Krishna book stories that Krishna and Balaram jumped off a mountain 142 meters high. Where's this mountain located? Where's that mountain? Srila Prabhupada replied, after pausing for a moment, and said, in the sky.
142 kilometers. Right?
It says meters here.
Okay. Sounds good.
Maybe kilometers. Okay, maybe 142 kilometers. Yeah. 142 kilometers, that's also pretty high. Anyway, high mountain, and Prabhupada said, in the sky. So you could not catch Srila Prabhupada to talk about something nobody understood. In Srila Prabhupada's letters to Ekayani, he said, I don't know why these inventions are going on. Now this is for our ladies, very encouraging, what Srila Prabhupada is saying. I don't know why these inventions are going on. We have already got our Vaishnava standard. It is sufficient for all the big saints and acharyas in our line. Why it shall be inadequate for my disciples, so they must manufacture something? Manufacture something? That is not possible. Who has introduced these things? That women cannot have chanting japa in the temple? They cannot perform the arti and so many things. If they become agitated, then let the brahmacharis go to the forest. I have never introduced these things. The brahmacharis cannot... What is that name? Hare Krishna. Nice offering to Shri Shri Gaura Gadadhar. Beautiful offering. Oh. Yes. If they become agitated, then let the brahmacharis go to the forest. I have never introduced these things. The brahmacharis cannot remain in the presence of women in the temple, then they may go to the forest. Not remaining in New York City, because in New York there are so many women, so how can they avoid seeing? Best thing is to go to the forest for not seeing any woman. They become so easily agitated, but then no one will either see them, and how our preaching work will go on. When Srila Prabhupada visited Honolulu in August 1917, at night, Srila Prabhupada came to address an overflowing crowd of more than 200 guests, which filled out of the temple room, down the stairs to the basement prasadam room, and out of the front door into the yard. As Srila Prabhupada took his seat on the Vyasasan, one of the brahmacharis dutifully held a large umbrella over Srila Prabhupada's head. Srila Prabhupada looked at the boy, smiled and said, I don't think it will rain here. Somebody introduced that, I remember. You know, we had these really fancy umbrellas with silver embroidery and large umbrellas holding Srila Prabhupada's head. So one time he made that comment. One time some parents of a devotee mentioned to Srila Prabhupada, the devotees don't seem very ambitious. You know, ambition, strong desire to accomplish, achieve something. So Srila Prabhupada said, that's right, the devotee has no ambition. He simply wants to do some humble service for Krishna. He's not trying to do anything big. A devotee is not ambitious, we have no ambitions. At this point, Kedananda Maharaj at that time, observing the discomfort of the parents, because they want to see that because their sons and daughters are ambitious for something. So I said, no, we are not ambitious. Kedananda thought, oh, now the parents feel very uncomfortable. He interjected, now what Srila Prabhupada means to say is that the devotees have no material ambition. Then Srila Prabhupada emphatically replied, no, we have no ambitions. The devotee is not at all ambitious. We just want to serve Krishna, that's all. Srila Prabhupada always knew the exact point he was making, even if others didn't. Sometimes disciples would interrupt Srila Prabhupada to interpret the statements, thinking that Srila Prabhupada perhaps didn't understand the person due to the difference of cultures. Srila Prabhupada knew who he was dealing with, what they meant, and exactly what he wanted them to understand. Srila Prabhupada doesn't compromise the philosophy to please anyone. He speaks the absolute truth. One day while Prabhupada was sitting in his room receiving his massage, he began talking and laughing. As he sat on the floor with one leg tucked under his body and one leg outstretched before him, he told the two or three devotees present how Krishna, carrying the lunch his mother had packed for him, would go to the forest with his cowherd boyfriends, who were also carrying lunches from home. Krishna and his friends would all sit together sharing their lunch, and Krishna always had the best ladus and kachuris. Prabhupada's eyes flashed, and he rubbed his hands together, smiling, and he said, "I simply want to go to Krishna Loka so I can have some of Krishna's ladus and kachuris. I do not have any great diversion from this. I'm not very much distracted from this. I simply want to go there so that I can enjoy eating ladus and kachuris with Krishna and the cowherd boys." Opening his eyes widely, he glanced at Devananda, one disciple, who was massaging him, and at the others in the room. "Oh," he said to them, "if you will give me ladus and kachuris, then I will bless you." So Srila Prabhupada, please teach us how to make ladus, one disciple said. Srila Prabhupada, please teach us how to make ladus and kachuris. The devotees replied excitedly, "We will definitely make them for you." Srila Prabhupada said, he assured them, "Yes, I shall teach you, I shall show you how to make." So these are some of the wonderful memories of Srila Prabhupada. His mood is all pervading in his movement, and of course it is our duty to preserve that mood of simplicity. We don't want to make anything unnecessarily complicated. We keep everything simple. Srila Prabhupada, he showed by example how simple he practiced Krishna consciousness. He just went out, chanted Hare Krishna. He gave us classes in the evening. Nothing complex, nothing complicated. Purity is the force. And as more we practice Krishna consciousness purely, and as more people will feel attracted to Krishna consciousness. Of course, we can use anything in Krishna service. If some devotees possess particular skills, that all can be engaged in Krishna service. I remember Srila Prabhupada when he was in Germany, giving his lectures, classes, he repeatedly mentioned, if you want to paint for Krishna, if you want to paint for Krishna. If you want to cook for Krishna. If you want to be a musician, make music for Krishna. So we can engage everything in Krishna service. But yet, at the same time, we have to keep things very simple, so that others can follow, and also so that we can follow. Not just like a marathon following for some years and then we collapse because it's just too demanding. We have to keep things very simple, that we have the energy and time to follow all these rules, study Srila Prabhupada's teachings very carefully, absorb them, learn how to give it to others, this process that requires simplicity and time. And of course the most important, chanting Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any additions, any thoughts you have?
How did you meet Prabhupada?
How I met Srila Prabhupada?
When and how?
See, at that time, to fly, to take a airplane and fly somewhere, this was only meant for movie stars. Too luxurious. So that was a little bit unfortunate. We didn't see Prabhupada for a long time, because he never visited Europe at that time, only America, India, Australia, far away places. He didn't come to Europe. And
Early 70s.
yeah, he for the first time he came in 73 to Paris, Europe. And this is where I met Srila Prabhupada. I was already second initiated. First initiation by letter. Srila Prabhupada initiated me by letter. I received your beads, my rubber beads. I duly chanted on them. And your name is Avinash Chandra. Actually, I'm quite proud of that name. This is why I kept it in front of my Sanya's name, the initials AC, the AC. But then I got in hot waters. I received letters from godbrothers, why your name sounds almost like His Divine Grace's name, H Bhaktivaibhava, H Bhaktivaibhava. What are you doing? I'm sorry, but I want to keep my brahmachari name. Srila Prabhupada gave it to me. And then one time it happened, one of my disciples doing Vyasa Puja, then they chanted Guru's name, and then he made this mistake. His Divine Grace. I think we don't say this anymore anyway. Guru Maharaj, AC, and then he pronounced Bhaktivedanta Swami. Everybody went, oh! So then now I took it away in front of my name. So it's my,
69.
I keep it private now. It's my private initials. I have my private initials, AC, Avinash Chandra. I'm very proud because I think till now nobody else has his name. I didn't find it. In the Vyasa Puja book it's not there, in the folio it's not there.
What does it mean?
Avinash Chandra. Srila Prabhupada translated Krishna, the moon who never dies. Avinash. Actually pronounced Avinash. Avinashi tu tadvidi. Avinash means like eternal. It does not despair, does not deteriorate, does not go away, does not die. Many Avinash. And Chandra means moon. So he translated like that. Krishna, the moon who never dies, never sets. Always eternal. Very nice name. Sort of confirmation, these discussions we had, what is happening after life. I feel because the Prabhupada gave that name. Krishna, who never dies. The moon. And so I was first initiated, then second initiation also I received by mail. Hansa Dutta, he made the fire yagya on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, gave the Brahmin thread. Then Srila Prabhupada sent the Gayatri mantra by mail. He sent a cassette. We had no computers at the time. They didn't exist. Physical cassette. Then I played it back and listened to the mantra. And I was second initiated. And then in 73, Srila Prabhupada visited for the first time in Paris.